am so excited to share with you this week's arts and crafts project. Lately, with the warmer weather starting to creep in, I've been feeling pretty springy. That said, I like spooky year-round, so I decided to mix the two. This week, I'm going to share with you not one, not two, but 3 terracotta pots that I painted in a Nightmare Before Christmas theme. Now, let me just say that this project was a complete and utter beast. I stupidly thought I was going to finish this in a week. No, I don't know what I was thinking. It took a month. All I can say is that I hope you love the end result as much as I do. Now, let's jump into the creepy, creative chaos. I covered each of the pots with 3 coats of gesso. I gave each layer 20 minutes to dry, then gave it a light sand before applying the next coat. Once the 3rd layer was applied, I gave the pots 24 hours to dry fully before jumping into the sketching and painting. From there, I decided I was going to start with Sally. I thought she would be the easiest of the 3. What could be so hard about some patches of color and some patterns, right? Yeah, I was wrong. She was a massive pain in my butt. And she had me rethinking this entire project. For Sally's pot, I wanted to focus on the pattern of her dress. I sketched out some patchwork, then jumped into the painting. As I painted the fabric squares in black, pink, blue, and yellow, this is where I faced my first challenge. Making sure 2 squares of the same color weren't touching. After a bit of planning and adding lines were needed to avoid this problem, I had all the colors in place. Next was the line work, and this was a miserable process. I thought I could easily just tackle it with some Posca pens, but they gave me so much trouble. So much trouble, I had to go back and repaint all the blocks of color, then go back in to redo the outlines with the brush and black paint. Once the outline was done, it was onto the fabric patterns. And you guessed it, it was a complete and utter headache when it came to all the patterns that included line work. I had to do them all with a brush and black paint. To make it worse, I couldn't get some of the line work thin enough. In that case, I'd have to go back in to thin the black lines out with the fabric color. It took forever. After testing out and adding a few stitches, I decided to skip them. While I know they are a huge part of her dress design, with all the black line work, they just made it look too busy and too messy. It looks so much cleaner without them. Last but not least, I painted the terracotta plate in black and pink to match the pot. Then signed and dated it. Next up was Zero. He was tough because unlike Sally, who's got a ton of colors to play with, Zero is just white and black and orange. That's it. So for his pot, I thought it would be best to do a scene rather than just playing off his character. I started by painting the night sky in a dark blue. I had to do 3 coats of each color on all the pots to get full coverage. Once the sky was done, I moved on to the moon and the spirally mountain that would eventually feature Sally and Jack standing on top. I decided to make the mountain black since it was directly in front of the moon. At its base, I added some headstones. From there, I made the other 2 hills in the background in shades of gray, making the closest hill the lighter of the 2. Even though the style is cartoony, I was trying to suggest some depth by going light to dark. To tie in the terracotta plate, I decided to paint it in the same colors as the ground, using black on its base and light gray around the top rim. To neaten it all up and make it look a little more finished, I outlined the top and bottom rims of the pot and plate. For Zero, I painted his body white, painted his eyes and mouth black, and gave him a little splash of orange for his pumpkin nose. Next up, I decided to go in and outline the mountains, because outlining's my favorite. God, it's so horrible. Now for the fun part. More gravestones, crosses, and rocks. I made my way around the pot, painting them in black silhouettes. I wanted just enough that it was obvious that it was a graveyard, but I wanted to avoid it looking too busy. While I was painting the stones, I decided I had to add a rickety old fence to the background. What is a cemetery without an old rickety fence? Now for the part I was dreading. Sally was so horrible to outline. I was really dreading outlining Zero. I knew there was no way I was going to get my brush strokes thin enough to avoid overwhelming him in black. So I tried using some Copic multiliners. I have no idea how they're going to hold up, but they were a pain to use. Like the Poscas, they'd work, then they'd stop working, then they'd work, and then they'd stop working. At this point though, I just kind of had to suck it up. I figured if I got through Sally without smashing her with a hammer, which believe me, I wanted to do at one stage, I could get through Zero. Now for Jack and Sally on their hill. Zero is meant to be the star of the show on this pot, so I wasn't looking to do anything too detailed with them, just their silhouettes. For the final detail on this pot, one last dreaded outline around the moon. Man, did it fight me. I tried my Copic multiliner, I tried a Micron, I tried a Posca, then I finally gave in and went back to a brush and paint. My level of frustration at this point with lines were through the roof. And right about now is when I realized Jack is the king of lines, and he was up next. I'm starting to think I'm a glutton for punishment. Now for the star of the show, Jack. As I just said, my level of frustration with the line work at this point was through the freaking roof. I was so over it. However, this time around, I knew what to expect going in, and I had a little hope because Jack was actually the larger of the 3 pots. That meant there was a good chance that the details weren't going to be as small or as fussy as the other 2. After sketching out a design for Jack, I started painting in the black areas. This is one part I wish I had done differently. I had painted out each black section separately so I didn't lose the line work, but doing it this way just added a whole lot of extra fuss for no reason. Instead, I wish I had just painted everything black that was going to be black in one solid coat and everything white that was going to be white. Once everything was dry, I could have gone back in, resketched the design, and saved myself from a lot of extra unneeded steps. Once I finished up my 3 base coats of black and white, I went in and outlined the main shapes with a white Posca pen. Yes, it actually worked this time. My one big change up for this pot were the white stripes on Jack's outfit. Originally, I did them with the white Posca pen like I did the outlines. But once I was done, I felt the stripes in the design outline blended together too much. To fix the problem, I decided to go back in with the paintbrush and a light gray paint to redo all the stripes on his coat and the details on his bat bow tie. While it was a massive pain in the butt and it added more time to the project, I honestly think it was a good move. Now I could clearly see the line work of the design and I could clearly see the lines and the details in his coat and his bow tie. For the oval on the back, I decided to draw the line work off camera since I really wasn't sure what I was going to put there. I knew I wanted the words, "What's this?" Beyond that, I was stuck between a bright Christmassy element or a design that would stick with the black, white, and gray of the overall color scheme. In the end, I decided to stick with the black, white, and gray. I painted the lettering in black paint. Then I added a gray snowflake to the center, playing off the scene where Jack sang his "What's This?" song in Christmastown. Then I finished off the back with a gray oval to frame it all in. Last but not least, the terracotta plate. I decided to paint this one solid black. I had toyed around with the idea of painting stripes on it, but since I hadn't added details to the other bases, I thought I'd keep it simple and consistent. One final touch, sign and date the bottom. Before calling this project done, I needed to varnish the exterior of all 3 pots and seal the interiors. For varnish, I used a Krylon satin spray. I'll leave the link in the description if you'd like to check it out. I applied 3 coats of varnish to each pot, giving it at least 20 minutes to dry between each coat. The varnish will help protect the painted surfaces from light wear and yellowing. It also gives the pots a nice little shine and weirdly makes the colors pop. Finally, I sealed all the surfaces that would be coming in direct contact with water with Rust-Oleum clear gloss sealant. I'll link this product below too. I applied 3 coats of sealant with a paintbrush to each pot, allowing for 2 hours of drying time between each coat. In the middle of my project, I learned that this was something I needed to do to keep the water from being absorbed by the terracotta. This just creates another protective barrier between the water and the exterior artwork. And that is a wrap for this week. 3 terracotta pots painted in a Nightmare Before Christmas theme. How do you think they turned out? Do you have a favorite? Do you plan on giving this a try for yourself? If you've painted terracotta pots before, do you have any tips you'd like to share? If so, please comment below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have an excellent week, and I look forward to bugging you again here very soon.